Doing well. How are you? I'm not muted. Yeah. I know.
It's really good. I'm really glad to be here and talk with you guys about all things Dash. It's always fun.
Perfect. Yeah. I was just going to say this last time we had some feedback of me eating on the show, and now I have to sit here and look at a picture of pasta the entire time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's
Hungry.
really tempting. It's really hard being on a diet when I have
Yeah.
to see this every day.
Yeah. I'll bet. Can't hear. Joel says Hillaway. Well, in the meantime, while he figures that out, can you hear me? Can you hear Pasta? Let us know in the chat. He still can't hear Joel. It's a little behind, probably. There's a little bit of a lag there, but we'll try and keep this going.
How's that going? How's that? Do you hear me okay? Let me know. Let me know if it's sounding good. I did enable. How's that? Do you hear me okay? Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Looks like he's good.
Let me know. Let me know if it's sounding good. All right. Now let me mute this YouTube stream. Let me pop this thing out. So apologies for the sound. It happens. But thanks for joining us, Hillary. You're great. Anyway, so Pasta, can you tell me what has been new in the world of Dash development? Specifically, so a lot of people don't understand all the different things that are happening in Dash as far as development, all the different departments. And some people in the Dash community, just think that like, oh, you must be working on evolution because that's what people do. And the split between, it's not exactly all one big group. So can you tell me kind of what you're working on specifically, what your domain is?
Yeah, so of course there's a lot of working together between the teams, but it is quite split. So I work on what's called the core dev team. And so I work on Dash Core, what the masternodes run, what you run on your desktop if you run Dash Qt or Dash Core. And so that's that low-level network protocol base that everything else builds off of. And then, of course, you have the platform team, which works on Dash Platform, the DAPI team, and all of those other teams that are working on the evolution features that build on top of level 1 Dash Core.
Yeah, so you're the base, the hardy base of everything. It's so what's been going on these last few months? It's been a whirlwind year since the end of December when everyone is freaking out about, is Dash going to actually pull off an evolution release? Is platform going to be out in any sort of way? And it was out on testnet. And so, I mean, that was 4 months ago. And what have all you been doing these days?
Yeah, so Dash Core itself in February, I think we released 0.15. And so that was a really major release and had a lot of improvements and optimizations, a lot of refactoring to the code base, a lot of stuff that isn't too fancy, but is really important. There were a lot of memory pool sync improvements in, that was 0.15. And that really helped us with InstantSend and ChainLocks stability. But a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, we had another community stress test, or someone threw a bunch of transactions at the network, and we found that this time ChainLocks did a lot better, InstantSend did a lot better, but still when hitting the upper limit of our block size, ChainLocks ended up failing for a couple of hours. And so for the last couple of weeks, or month, however long it's been, we've been investigating that hard, and we've got some major improvements to the low-level network performance of masternodes and interconnecting. What we found was actually that there wasn't necessarily a bug with how ChainLocks was performing. There wasn't an easy problem that was like, just a simple fix. We messed up this if statement. There was nothing simple like that. it was just there was so much traffic that the masternodes talking to each other got overloaded. And so we've been working on that low-level network optimization. So we're doing some backboarding from Bitcoin regarding that network optimization, as well as some additional methods to better interconnect the masternodes so that they can relay those messages. And
ooh, that was crazy. Keep going.
Okay. So that they're all interconnected properly, and the CL-SIG, the chain lock signature, can get created and propagated to the network. And how we're doing that is a method called concentrated recovery. So previously, each masternode would see the block, and they would sign a message that said, yes, this is the block that I saw first, and they would send that to the entire network. Mm-hmm. And as you can imagine, hundreds of masternodes all doing that at about the same time creates a lot of traffic going around the network. And then whenever one node had enough messages to create the CL-SIG, that's 60%, they would create the CL-SIG and then broadcast that to the network, and then the chain lock would be finalized, right? The problem with that was it's so much traffic because the chain lock signature, the initial signature saying, yes, this is the block that I saw first, every masternode sent that to every other masternode that it was connected to, basically. And so what we're changing it to now is that there's, in the quorum, there's a deterministically selected masternode, which when you sign saying this is the block that I saw first, you'll send it to that masternode, and everyone else would do the same. And then it's their job to create the CL-SIG and propagate it. And if that fails for whatever reason, maybe that masternode's down, or any other problem, maybe that masternode just doesn't want to create the CL-SIG, whatever. So
would you say that increasing masternode requirements would help? I mean, obviously there's a lot of other code improvements that need to take place, but do you think increasing masternode requirements would help, and are there plans to do that?
At this point, not necessarily, because what we were seeing was not necessarily that on a standard node that it was absolutely pinning and maxing out the resources. It was more so that the low-level network code wasn't optimized enough to handle the number of connections and the number of messages.
Okay. That makes sense. I had another question for you. In the beginning there, you were talking about a stress test on the network, and I noticed you said a community stress test. Do you guys have an idea of who was pumping all those transactions to the network? Are you in contact with that person, or was this just an occurrence, something that happened that you guys noticed?
Yeah, so at this point, to my knowledge, but before we go any further, I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. I'm not a high-up official at Dash Core Group. I don't have the legal ability to vouch for them or to say anything official. I'm an independent contractor, not an employee or anything like that. So everything I'm saying is my own opinion and kind of what I know and what I'm able to say. Understood. But it shouldn't be taken as the definitive word of Dash Core Group or whatever. But to my knowledge, we have not had any contact with whoever did that stress test. We have no idea who it might be. All we know is the information that we've gathered from it and the improvements that we're making because of it.
Okay. That leads me to an interesting question, and this may be off topic, and if it is, feel free to just continue on here. But I'm wondering what, like on the blockchain, what is the difference, visually from a stress test versus an attack of sorts? Like, how do you tell the difference? If somebody attempting to attack the network, or are they genuinely stress testing? I mean, is there a way to tell? Probably not, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to tell. Potentially a way to tell would be if someone does a stress test and then there's a massive failure, you would think the person doing the stress test would stop, but you would think that the person doing the attack would continue.
Sure.
But we don't, other than that, there's no indication. We don't have any indication on either side, whether it was someone trying to attack the network or
safe to say at this point, if it was an attack, that they failed.
Yeah, I would say it failed. As we've said with ChainLocks, it adds an extra level of security, but even if it fails, there's still the proof of work security inherent to blockchain networks, which is still an incredibly high level of security.
And that's exactly kind of what I was getting at with this. I kind of wanted to reiterate the fact that, yes, we have chain locks, and now we're talking about how masternodes were not able to sustain the chain locks necessarily for that entire period of time, and they did fail for a little while. But I did want to point out, obviously, I wanted, to kind of hopefully lead you to that answer, just because I obviously can't speak from a position of any type of authority whatsoever. But I did want to kind of push that issue or figure out, the proof of work security is still there. It's still enough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, it's also worth noting that a chain lock locks in the whole blockchain up until that point. So if you skip one, if one fails, all the rest in the past is still secure. And then the next one that succeeds just locks everything in anyway. So it's not like, just the whole thing broke down and it sucks. And it's so it's also worth noting in all this, and sorry for the newbie speak for the people who are, old veterans watching this, but cryptocurrencies like the Bitcoin and its children work pretty basically. They work. And what Dash is trying to do is to make that basic thing work in a incredibly smooth kind of a way. So it's not like, this is really secure. As long as the hash rate is, mostly, as long as no one's trying to attack the network, it's still pretty secure. You just wait a few more confirmations in case to be 100% sure your giant sum of money you just moved is not going to get attacked or whatever. It just makes it like, nope, like right away, within 2.5 minutes, basically, it's absolutely permanent. You never have to worry about it. And the same thing.
If chain locks are failing, then it's 5 minutes, and then it's 7.5.
And same thing with InstantSend, where with other cryptocurrencies, if you buy, say, a coffee or pay for your meal or whatever it is, and it's $2 to a couple $100 worth, or possibly less, it's going to show up right away. Hey, it worked. And you will probably want to wait for larger transactions, or in a little bit, like even if you sell some Bitcoin for like $20, $30, something small from an ATM, and then you double spend that and then steal the money. I mean, that's because of an automated system. It's a little bit easier to game than just like an in-person, transaction. So it's like, well, let's just not trust that zero confirmation thing right away. Maybe you can wait. And so there's all this like variability in the user experience, because all this, whatever the technical stuff, it all goes back to user experience. And so there's some variability in the user experience based on conditions, and that's not that good for a next level payment system. Now, of course, with Dash, you have these things on top, i.e. InstantSend, i.e. ChainLocks, that make that user experience of send it and it's done, like uniform. Basically, you don't have to think, how long has it been? How many confirmations? Let me check. Do I need to wait for confirmation? It always works. And of course, that introduces a little bit of level of complexity. So when you start actually spitting out tons of transactions, some things might have broken until you can figure out how to fix them. So, Pasta, are these limitations, as far as we know to tell, fixed, or are they going to be fixed in the latest release, or are there some limitations to how far you think you can do that?
Yeah, so we're currently working on 0.16, and our current kind of internal guidelines say we're planning on releasing around mid next month. Mm-hmm. That could vary so much, but that's kind of our plan. And that has all of these low-level optimizations, concentrated recovery. You can go look at the pull request for that if you're more interested in how it works. And all of those low-level optimizations, which should serve to drastically improve the scalability and stability of InstantSend and ChainLocks under very high-stress situations.
Yeah, so right now, the high-stress situations kind of cause some wrinkles in the plan. Now, what's the threshold before version 16? As in right today, what's like a good range for a limit before you start running into those problems? Like, is it is it like a million transactions a day? Is that where it starts to kind of go weird? Is it a few 100,000? Like what kind of level are you talking about? Do you know?
That's a good question. I'm curious on that as well.
So with my testing on testnet and a little bit of testing that I've done on mainnet, I've been able to send transactions out to the network at a sustained rate of a couple of transactions per second, and ChainLocks and InstantSend were completely stable at those rates. It's really when you get up into the upper limit, when you're really filling blocks and you're hitting that millions of transactions per day, that's when we are starting to see some problems. And so with our normal growth at this point, normal days, we're not going to see problems, but it's under those stress test conditions that there are potentially stability problems at this point.
Yeah, so just doing a quick little calculation on what you said a few a second, that would be around Bitcoin's transaction volume per day. So it's like when you're doing if Dash was processing as many
I don't know about transaction volume. Transaction
number of transactions.
Number of transactions.
Yeah, so if Dash was processing as many as BTC does today on a daily basis, it would work great. Everything would be instantly confirmed, smooth as butter. It's just where you start getting out of that range that right now we've had some issues that we're going to optimize and then fix. Is that right? Correct?
Yeah, that's what I've seen in my testing, and there could have been problems in my testing, and maybe that number is lower, maybe that number is a little bit higher, but it's safe to say that at our current levels and at the levels that we're growing to in the near future, we are not facing a problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is a long-term growth kind of position that we're fixing.
And so it's worth thinking about a couple aspects. First is some haters would be like, well, see, it doesn't scale. Dash is trash, blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on for a second. Regular old cryptocurrency transaction type stuff could scale very high, very easily right now. It's just, we're talking about the extra cream on top, the bells and whistles. It's just like, you can only run 3 miles. That's what's like, okay, with an 80-pound pack. But now we're getting to where we can do that in a lot more. And also, the further we get away from that ridiculous scaling debate that happened with Bitcoin for a while, the more we're able to actually see a non-political and nuanced kind of point of view that proof of work scaling, you can scale on chain. It is possible. You can scale to large levels, to high levels. At the same time, it's not like you just scale in that work. Like there are some tricks. You do run into some issues. You do have to do some optimizations. You have to do a bunch of other stuff. It's an evolutionary process. You don't just say, we're going to just scale to like PayPal levels today. Well, you try it, and then you run into some bugs and some errors and issues, and things break and explode. And they're like, all right, so, that didn't work, but I think it can. And then you start working on ironing out those little kinks, and then eventually you do get to a system where you can go that large on-chain, and hopefully that large on-chain with InstantSend and ChainLocks. What do you think, Bas? Do you think that's doable if you're able to imagine it?
Yeah, I think so. With the optimizations that we are doing right now, I think the limit will be raised very, very high. Obviously,
out of curiosity,
number for that, but what's up?
Doubling? Are you think you're doubling the rate, or tripling, or not quite, or hard to say at this point?
I mean, it's hard to say, but my gut kind of intuition is that we should be good up to about our current block size limit for sure. So such that mass stress tests shouldn't. Hopefully won't cause problems in the future. These pull requests are just being created now and going through review right now. So we still have to test them on testnet and really throw a lot of stuff at them. But it looks very promising so far that it will be a massive optimization.
Nice. That is good to hear. I'm obviously a big fan of Dash. I mean, I'm here on on a podcast talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a big fan. have been for a long time. When ChainLocks were announced, I was absolutely ecstatic, and still am. I see, lots and lots of potential for that. Out of curiosity, you're working on the core protocol, right? Do you do any work on platform or anything like that, or is that mostly internal to Dash Core Group?
To the team.
Yeah. So I don't do much on it. I'm subscribed to the GitHub repos as anyone can be. I do some reviewing every once in a while, and maybe I'll see a typo or some stuff like that. But it's not the primary thing that I focus on. Yeah, I'm really focused on the protocol and the low level stuff, and
which is important. We need
for
need that. And there's so many projects right now struggle to have core developers. In fact, we see like Litecoin, for example, and I'm not here to bash any projects necessarily, but we see that they are talking about funding, and Charlie Lee tweeted out not too long ago that there's just nobody that wants to work on the protocol, and I don't think that's necessarily a Litecoin problem. I think that it's a protocol problem. Protocol development is just not everybody's cup of tea.
Well, so we mentioned that recently. So Bitcoin Cash, of course, has been front and center with this for a while, and that's the other project. I don't care what some people say. That's the other project that I think it's like, so in practical terms, and we'll get to that in a bit, but it's useful for actual payments. It's one of the few that's actually used and useful.
It would be something you would consider a competitor, right?
Yeah, like a respectable competitor from that thing.
Definitely.
However, just watching the whole funding drama has been, first people just complaining about, struggling about donations, miners trying to do some sort of a donation, get all the pools together and donate some of their stuff, and then
do you know what happened with that? I don't want to get too far off track, but I'm curious if you know what happened with that block tax.
So that's how it started. That didn't go anywhere, and then eventually there was a plan was floated to add an actual developer tax or whatever, a treasury that goes. Let's just say it's like the Zcash Founders Reward sort of thing that just goes straight to Bitcoin ABC, one of the main development, but not the only development teams with Bitcoin Cash, but they were going to get it all. And there was controversial, it fell apart, but then they decided to go ahead and push that into the protocol anyway, and basically just, it was one mining pool that I think was threatening to orphan blocks that didn't have this in. So it was getting dangerously close to another hard fork or chain split. And then that
Did they pull it out?
I think they got rid of it, and then someone caught one of the former Bitcoin ABC developers ended up splitting off and creating Bitcoin Cash Node, which is essentially the same thing, just without the funding mechanism. And there's just a lot of back and forth, and then his comment access from ABC got revoked, and it's just like, Gavin Andreessen and BTC, I'll just.
This is a huge testament to me about governance built into Dash protocol and the treasury and everything like that.
Yes, and now Bitcoin ABC is back to just fundraising and stuff. And I don't know.
It's something that they struggle with for sure.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, and
they've had the benefit of having Roger put a lot of money into everything.
Yeah,
right?
And now they have the benefit of George Donnelly hustling for them to get donations. But let's not even touch that subject at all. But so there's just been that back and forth on a lot of different projects, a lot of the older school projects. I think a lot of the newer projects have had the common sense to figure out how they're going to fund things right off the bat, but they've done it more as a company type of a thing of you start an ICO, or you get a bunch of VC funding behind the company that develops this decentralized protocol, but still kind of it's semi-centralized, but in the exchange you get money. So that's kind of how it is. So it's good to have something like Dash that actually the protocol itself funds the development and can actually choose the team and things like that. So
Pasta, you're funded by the protocol, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does your pay? It doesn't. I guess you're a contractor. So does Dash Core Group's proposal then passes and then they cut you a check, or do you have your own proposal? I'm not positive on that.
So the way that all that Dash Core pays out to all contractors and to employees is Dash Core puts in a proposal for what they
their
need,
need, right?
and then that proposal hopefully gets passed and paid out. And then at that point in time, to my knowledge, they then transfer that into U.S. dollars for stability. And then at the end of the month, I put in an invoice saying I worked this many hours this month. We've agreed to this rate, and that comes out to this number. Please send it to this Dash address. And at that point, they then buy Dash on the market, send the Dash to me, and then I'm paid. And so that's a rough outline of how all of that works.
Sure. And I mean, there's a possibility, obviously, that they may do things differently with different contractors, or
sure,
whatever the case is. Who knows? But yeah, I was so that's really cool. Then so you are essentially paid in Dash, and again, you don't have to answer this. I'm getting really personal here. Do you hold like most of the funds you receive from this in Dash, or you? I mean, you can give a broader answer. You don't have to be that specific, but.
Yeah, so I mean, I do a couple of things. Immediately when I receive my paycheck, I force myself to do kind of a tax withholding, and kind of a withholding of a percent. And then the majority of the rest of that I keep in Dash, and then I sell as I need for just living expenses and everything like that.
That's cool. Yeah, so
are you interested in that Uphold card then? That makes things easier for you?
I haven't actually looked into it yet, but I am interested in it. So it is something I have to set aside some time for and look into.
Definitely. Yeah. I just moved far enough up the list to get mine. My girlfriend's had hers for months now. She's been in the beta program, and she loves it.
Nice.
Yeah. So as far as other developments, PrivateSend. I heard some kind of rumblings about that. Now, of course, for the viewers at home, everyone knows PrivateSend is the private sending function of Dash. It's an optional thing that you check a little thing, it mixes funds together, and it sends them out in a jumbled way where you can't tell where they came from. So is anything new on that front in terms of optimizations, improvements, other things like that?
So let's see. I can't remember if it was, I think it's coming out in 0.16. I did a pretty major refactoring to, not that major, but it's just a refactoring. Doesn't really change that much of how it works, but to the PrivateSend code base under the hood. If you remember, I think it was maybe a year ago, one of my first contributions was we changed PrivateSend mixing from always being 3 participants to being a random number of participants between 3 and 5.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was a massive improvement, and that was awesome. And as I've kind of researched it more and just looked into it more, I've realized that it doesn't necessarily make sense to choose a random number between 3 and 5. Let's just always try and find 5 participants. And if we can't within some timeout threshold, then as long as we have at least 3, then use that many. And so that on average, if there's enough liquidity, will increase the privacy pool. And so that's just a PrivateSend refactoring and should have a little bit of privacy improvement, but it's not that interesting. The big PrivateSend interesting thing that's been going on recently is its addition into Electrum that I know Joel is really hyping and is enjoying. And so that's a major thing, and potentially can lead to PrivateSend on mobile wallets, which I think will be already there. Important. Awesome.
Yeah. So
have you used it at all?
I've used it. So to full disclosure on that, I've used it. I've had issues getting it to work, and other people have not had issues. However, my issues turned out to be an actual bug that the developer is going to push to a fix hopefully very soon. But so I haven't actually been able to successfully do it myself, but others have. And just to explain, and this is something that like people don't really get about. There's a lot of like hype around cryptocurrencies and like Dash is a privacy coin. It's like whatever. There's a lot more detail that goes into that. So up until very recently, on a purely technical level, you probably, in order to use Dash's advanced privacy, you probably needed to run a full node, which is you download the client, it connects to a bunch of different peers, you're running a whole node yourself, it downloads the entire however many gigabyte blockchain onto your computer and has to sync it before you even use it. Whereas a layer client, like say the phone wallet, just does a very quick connection. It doesn't have the whole blockchain. It connects to nodes like the full node. And the only way to use privacy is basically on your laptop that has the whole blockchain synced. And if you haven't used it in a few weeks, when you open it up again, got to sync, got to catch up before you can do any of this kind of stuff. So what basically in was it 0.14 that deterministic master list came out, Pasta?
Yes.
That sounds right.
So somewhere around this time last year, I think, it was the beginning of last year, that was now possible to do on thin clients, which would be your everyday wallet that you use for spending, whether it's on your phone or on your computer that you just kind of open up and can use, broad strokes. And that was technically possible, but no one really made it happen until Dash Electrum, which has been an ongoing project with Dash, a light desktop client and a mobile device.
So is there a possibility we could see this in the core Android wallet or core iPhone?
It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible, in fact. But the thing is, I don't think that's a high priority on any of the Dash any of the main Dash any of the Dash core development teams.
A lot of other things going on.
Yes, which is why Electrum is doing it.
Real quick, and just say if there's anybody in the community that wants to see this on mobile, and you have some type of development ability, and I believe that the core Android wallet is C++. So if you have that ability and you're interested, log on to GitHub and make a contribution. You can do that. Yeah.
So Pasta, how easy, this is more of like, I guess, an internal Dash core question than a technical one, but how easy would it, so if it's not a priority in the regular Dash wallet to have PrivateSend, first off, how easy is it for a contributor to look at the code and just be like, all right, I'm going to just make a PrivateSend bit and just see if they'll merge it in? First, how easy is that? And second, is it even going to be desired? Because there might be some countries or some people that have restrictions on the use of PrivateSend, or there might be some optics around that just they'd rather not have it in the most official looking wallet, even though it's in other wallets. So what do you think?
So obviously the maintainer of the Android and iOS wallets might have a different opinion than me. But what I know on the Dash Core side of things is whenever someone puts in a pull request to Dash Core, even if it's something really simple, even if it's something that's very trivial, we're all really appreciative of it. And that's a wonderful thing to see. And we always want to see more community members get involved in development. That is how I first got involved in Dash. I remember the first, when I officially got onboarded and got added to the Slack, one of the first things I did was I searched up pasta in the search bar and looked at what, kind of people had said previously about me. And, you can tell early on when I was submitting pull requests, they were like, who's this pasta guy? We haven't seen him before. But they were really appreciative. They can help you. They'll help you out if maybe there's a certain aspect of Git that you're not understanding and that's blocking you. So, I mean, on a general side, I would just kind of implore you in the community to if you have any technical ability to do stuff to, some of us have weeks right now where we're locked at home. That's a great time to learn new skills, and it can turn into something pretty lucrative.
Let me give my little wish list thing here. So Dash is coming out with usernames. I mean, they are on testnet right now, but in maybe, let's just say a few months, who knows? Who actually knows what the speed of this thing is going to be? But in a few months, there will be blockchain usernames along the Dash network, and then there will be a wallet that'll be in the main Dash wallets. But here's one thing I want with a Dash wallet. I want a Dash username enabled wallet, so usernames that has PrivateSend right? So you can private send anonymously between user names, and I want it to be multi-coin, to where you can do extended public keys of other cryptocurrencies also in the same wallet. Do
usernames work with extended public keys?
I think so, right?
Kind of. I think they do a different type of handshake between each other and generate public keys to use between each other. I mean,
I think Pasta would know better. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think, Pasta?
So this isn't something that I strictly work on every day or anything, but to my understanding, basically when you set up a connection between, say, I want to send money to Spencer and we both have usernames, you do a handshake, and I would get a unique extended public key for Spencer, and he would get a unique extended public key for me. It's almost like stealth address if you've looked into those at all. And you're able to send to then new addresses each time I send to Spencer. So I think most of the Dash community knows this, but I think it's critical to point out every time we talk about usernames. It's not possible to go to an Explorer and type in pasta and be able to see everything that I've done or everything I have.
Course.
Right.
It's strictly a UI level, and everything is encrypted behind the scenes.
So
it's essentially individual extended public keys. Like you have, it's almost like a branch. So if I go here, I have like my master extended public key. Then I have my extended public key that goes between me and Joel. I have my extended public key that goes between Pasta and I. My extended public key that goes between other people. And then from those extended public keys, you have all the addresses that you share. So
so I don't know if you've ever
look up all the transactions between him and I, but of course he already knows that anyway.
I don't know if you've ever used like your Trezor with Electrum, but when you do, it asks you like what path do you want to look at?
Derivation path,
Yeah, and so that's basically how this works. Is each user has a unique path, and so you can do this with any extended public key. Is every extended public key can have basically children extended public keys under it, and you can kind of continue that graph forever through the magic of cryptography, and that's basically how those usernames
so really quick, so the private or the unique xpub key, is that something that is unique to Dash, or is that possible in all cryptocurrencies today?
Done on other coins.
Okay, so
but other coins are currently not set up to work that way. With their derivation paths, they're standardized somewhat. So if you wanted to use it with other coins, either they could adopt a similar derivation path to Dash, and use the username system that way, or it's possible that you could send to a username multi-coin using an extended public key, but your extended public key that's exchanged would be the same for every user. And in that case, you would be able to look up someone's username and their entire history.
Yeah. So what I would like to do is have a multi-coin wallet that has usernames that you can use with other cryptocurrencies, and of course has Dash PrivateSend. And first off,
agreed. That's a huge key to it.
So first off, I use a few different wallets. I have my Dash Core whole, full node wallet, the one that's taken my poor buddy Jared. He's a few years behind. Yeah, he's in the live chat complaining about it. Sorry, I'll explain how to use it the right way in a second. That you don't need to do that. But so I have that one that's all synced up. I have the main Dash Android wallet. I have the Dash Electrum on desktop and on mobile. I have Edge and Coinomi, which are multi-coin wallets, and I think I might have Electron Cash for Bitcoin Cash or something. I don't know. I have a few different ones, and I would love to just be able to have one wallet for everything. And the problem is, the only reason I have unique Dash wallets, other than to test them out because I want to see if they actually work right, is first off, the user experience is unparalleled. I mean, the Dash Android wallet with the new interface is sexy as hell, right? It's cool. It works. And as I always say, and might as well flash on the podcast again in case there's some new user, as soon as you open that thing, you have a quick receive, which just lets you receive your Dash, and a quick send button that just cuts way back on the time. You don't have to go, let me open, let me do a pin, where's the send? You just goes right in. So, but then sometimes I have to use other cryptocurrencies. Not really, but when people send me other ones, or it's like, hey, you need to use a specific service. So I have other wallets. I'd like to have it all in one thing. And also, if it's a username based thing, none of these things are really username based things. You can just recommend that for anyone. Hey, just use this, send between these people, and it's just so easy. Now, also, I want to have all of Dash's features parallel, like right next to it, because if you're sending, I'm going to send Bitcoin Cash to this guy, and it's like, yeah, it works, but then it's taking a while to confirm, whereas Dash is zip, or if it's like have it PrivateSend mixing right in the wallet, something like that, I'd like to have it all on display right there. And I think that could be huge. As I was saying to Ash on 2 weeks ago on the podcast, with the whole Dash retail system, again, really sexy, works great. I want it to be multi-coin just so you can get more people in on the system. And then by using Dash, you can just see, wow, this is a smoother, better user experience. And what if everyone is using 80 to 90% non-Dash coins through Dash usernames? I still think that's a win, right? I still think that's a win, because not only does the world move ahead, the technology, but people are using Dash whether they're spending the actual Dash coins directly or not. I mean, they are in like, using to register the username and get it connected and stuff like that. But anyway, I see that as a whole win. So if you're out there, start thinking towards that. Start learning how to code. I still remember when Codex didn't really know how to code.
I didn't know anything.
And then he started a point of sale project, and his partner bailed on him. And then rather than just give up on it, he just learned how to code so he could finish it. And here he is.
That's right.
So.
Yep, that's right. And in fact, this is where I get to bug Pasta about Dash Boost. This is my right here.
Oh yeah.
All right. So as Joel was just saying that I came back and finished the project and released that project essentially for free at that point in time, because I had somebody had absconded with most of our funding, but then later subsequent proposals I put through Dash Boost as they were relatively small, and got funded through there, which was excellent, and I thought a wonderful tool. And I know that there were some abuses and some things happening. I'm curious, Pasta, will we ever see Dash Boost operate again?
Yeah, I'm always open to it. I know Tech Squad would very likely be open to it as well. We have absolutely no qualms either way. We're here to support what the Dash community wants in that regard. And so if everyone in the community wants Dash Boost to return and there is funding set aside for Dash Boost proposals, we will gladly do it, and we will gladly support Dash Boost and work on it again. But also, if the community doesn't want that, there's no hard feelings. That's fine.
I'm actually curious what led to the decision to put a pause on Dash Boost in the first place. I'm sure this is a multifaceted answer. There's probably a lot of things, but if you could expand on that a little bit.
I think it was a couple months in a row we asked for funding for proposals, and we didn't receive it. Just simply because there were other proposals at the time that delivered more value, and I kind of agreed with the master nodes on that. And so at that point, we didn't have funding for proposals, and that's the whole point of Dash Boost, is to give out funds to proposals. And so at that point, we went ahead and kind of hibernated it. And the code is still there. We can ramp back up whenever we'd like.
Yes, I remember one particular issue with Dash Boost that, like, something I can't remember exactly, but it was like near the end of the voting cycle, like as it was about to end, it was just like a massive influx of votes, and there was some type of gaming going on. Yeah.
And so for the people who
I remember you did something about it. Did you give it like a window? Was it like a 10-hour window or something where it would end randomly within that 10 hours?
Yeah. So some people were.
It's like a variable deadline, right?
Yeah. It at the end of it, it was a variable deadline, but before that, people would come in like with 30 seconds remaining and just submit a bunch of votes, and it was just in bad faith.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, submitting votes is totally fine. That's what I want people to do. That's awesome. But you know, when you do it when there's literally like 30 seconds left, it just gives a really bad look, and it just feels immoral. So
like,
we ended up putting in a random end time so that last second voting wasn't really possible, but it was still possible to just like, okay, the day before I'll dump a whole bunch of votes,
but at least you knew where you stood, right? That's part of it. And then, then the other thing is, do you think that if more masternode owners participated, because the thing is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, each dash is a vote.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm a masternode, I have 1,000 votes that I can throw around.
Correct.
Right. So if more masternodes participated, then the individual votes wouldn't affect it as much, right? Somebody couldn't come in at the last second and just throw 2,000 votes down.
Yeah, which is really what we tried to push for and what we pushed the community to do. But we never really saw that high turnout that we wanted to, because the higher the turnout, the harder it is to game. You think about the regular treasury. If 2 people vote, well, then it's really easy for someone to come in and just do whatever they want.
Definitely.
And so that's the big thing, is for Dash Boost to succeed in its current form, it needs to have higher voter turnout, not as high as the regular Dash Treasury, I'd say, but higher, so that individual kind of small whales who are in that kind of 6 to 30 masternode range can't just come in and absolutely destroy.
Yeah. I mean, for context, when I was putting proposals into Dash Boost, I think Dash was somewhere around $500 maybe. And for me to put a proposal in for $3,000, it would have cost me $2,500. So in the regular treasury, whereas in Dash Boost it costs $500 to put a proposal in for $3,000. So I think Dash Boost personally has a place that's really important in the community. I hope that we can rally some support around it, sometime in the future. I need to be more vocal about it. Instead, I just tag you in the Dash Boost room with an exclamation point all the time.
Yeah. I think that at probably sub $500, I'm not sure it makes sense.
Right, agreed.
But once, Dash Boost was kind of founded and created when Dash was near its peak at around $1,000, and at that point, I think it made a lot of sense because
because
at
$1,000,
the treasury fee was just too high for those smaller proposals, and all masternodes didn't necessarily want to have to view every single one of those smaller proposals. So I think it made a lot of sense at those prices. I'm not sure it makes as much sense at these. And we're ready and happy to bring it back if Dash kind of when Dash recovers.
I have a couple ideas on that. So first off, one thing that kept a lot of people from registering to vote on Dash Boost was the people had to register individual Dash addresses. And for privacy reasons, people didn't like that. And also, I mean, from my perspective as well, I never had any meaningful amount of Dash in a single address that I can remember. So it just had it scattered amongst a bunch of different addresses, and it's like consolidating, and it just, I'm not going to do it. So if you could have them all associated with the username, if there'd be a username-based thing where you could just explore all addresses that have some Dash in them associated with that username, and just that's the voting power. It'd be a lot easier for users to register, especially if they didn't have to worry about the actual addresses being doxed, so people would say how much money you have and where is it. So that's
I think that's a good idea. I wonder if that's possible. I mean, I'm sure it's possible.
It could be possible, but
oh man, the pasta puns! I was gonna throw out so many pasta puns today, and I forgot.
Yeah, so that's one thing, is the username kind of registration that just it'd be just smooth, get a lot higher participation. And the second thing, of course, is for the actual funding source. Of course, Dash Boost funds were kind of viewed as like a leftover. of like, if there's enough money, you throw it to Dash Boost. If you pay for everything, and when there wasn't enough money, people are just like, this is non-essential. But it's possibly better to have it outside of the treasury system entirely. So what I would like to do is allow masternodes to register for Dash Boost, and every time they get a payout, they get a little invoice that just says, do you want to donate 10% of your, or 1%, whatever it is? Do you want to donate 1% of your rewards to Dash Boost? And then if they go yes, then they send it. If not, it's just like on your phone, you go beep, and you're like, yeah, or you're like, oh no, it's a rough month, I can't do it this month. You go no. And then if you just have masternodes participating, and then it could just say there's so many masternodes participating in Dash Boost voluntarily, and you could actually let people be identified by their names that they want to use, or just anonymous. And then it'd be like a community effort funded by, of course, non-masternodes could also fund it, of course. But it makes sense that if you're getting recurring Dash income for, quote, doing nothing, don't lynch me, people, but you know what I mean. It's just, as in, it's not like you had to go get a job and cash out. You're running a
service, but at the same time,
it's from your passive income, and so, or semi-passive income. You still have to run the servers and stuff. But that would be nice if you just create like a community sort of a project, and then you get to vote based on things. It'd also be good if you could decide ahead of time if you're going to either abdicate your vote to the wisdom of the crowds, like CrowdNode does, or you could also decide if you wanted to loan your voting power to another person. And that's one thing that I was talking about, the Dash voting mechanisms in general for a while, that it'd be great if voter turnout thing would have a auto delegate feature. So say that we're 3 masternode buddies, the 3 of us, and I'm too busy to vote this month, or I haven't looked at it. And so what it said, it automatically mirrors my votes after what Spencer does. And if he's not around, then it resorts to Pasta. And so, and if none of the above, I guess my node doesn't vote. But it would be good to have that sort of thing. So if we all trust each other's judgment, and what if I vote on 3 things, but like the 3 things I paid attention to that I disagree with you guys on, I vote, and they work like that. The votes I don't enter resorts to you guys' judgment.
That's kind of a good idea.
Yeah, and so
I mean, it would be easy to make that as a centralized service, but of course you run a huge risk of getting a lot of votes on that service, and then whoever owns the service points all their votes towards they have a huge proposal or something. But
that's what I'm saying is Dash Boost seems like a much lower risk kind of environment for this sort of thing to try out that kind of a thing, to basically try out maximum voting participation, a whole bunch of different things that maybe would break the core protocol if it was there, or would cause a lot of complications, or it would be potentially disastrous to try this stuff out. But I would love to try that out.
Pasta, I do agree with you that at these prices, Dash Boost doesn't make sense. But the only reason I bring it up is because I want you to keep it in mind when the Dash price inevitably returns to a much higher prices. Be thinking about it, and then we'll revisit this conversation.
For sure, if the community support is there, I think the team would be glad to come back and revive it.
Yeah. So I would just my little story from yesterday that I'll semi-conclude with. But if anyone has any questions for Pasta, hit it up in the live chat, especially the YouTube live chat, because that one's on my actual screen. I am checking
Where's the other live chat?
I'm checking it's going to my personal Facebook. I'm checking my personal Facebook live chat on my phone. So if you have any specific questions for Pasta, start thinking about them now and entering them. So yesterday, I joined some Facebook group called Delegated. It's basically dedicated to teaching people how to move forward in this post-pandemic world, specifically the coming economic problems from all the potential hyperinflation, things like that. So anyway, I got invited to basically present to 1,000 or so people about cryptocurrency, how to live off of it specifically, because that's kind of what I've been doing for a few years now. And I was trying to, obviously I'm not going anywhere as a shell. I'm trying to give the best advice possible, and I'm telling you where you can buy stuff, like easy with a credit card or say through Coinbase or things like that. Here's how you can spend it on stuff, answering a bunch of questions. And I ended up recommending Dash more than anything. Partially, I'm sure there's a bias because of my experience in it, that this is just what I know the most about. I do, of course, recommend Bitcoin Cash for a few services, or if you're in a few geographies where that's more prevalent. But I return to the whole Bit Refill kind of thing, which does not support Bitcoin Cash, only Dash. I mean, a bunch of other coins, but not that. And just how you could buy a gift card and through InstantSend, it's just there right away. So you're in line at the Chipotle or whatever. You buy a gift code for $13, and it gets in time for you to scan at the register, and it's almost like paying with a card, if not faster. But you can't do that with, say, I think it supports Litecoin or some other coin, but whatever. You can't do that with other coins because you have to wait for a confirmation, which Dash doesn't need that. And so because of the honest to goodness user experience, I found myself recommending Dash in more cases. And that's kind of the ultimate goal, is to not have to have clever arguments, not say like, oh, this is better because blah blah blah, like have these things. It's much better to be in a spot where it's just like, you know what, don't make life difficult for yourself. Just use this. It's going to work. Or people, why isn't this confirming? Why isn't this? Or why haven't I had a block for 100 minutes now? Oh, after the halvening, and it still drives me. Like, I'm not trying to hate, and if you think I'm hating, well, you're mean. Whatever. I cannot believe that it's 20 mofo 20, and people still don't have difficulty adjustments in the next block in their blockchains. And of course, for the non-technical at all, basically, depending on how many people mine on the network or mining on the network, it gets more difficult with more people mining and less difficult with fewer people mining. And when, say, a bunch of miners drop off for whatever reason, then the difficulty doesn't adjust quickly enough. Then the speed at which the blocks go through, beep, 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 gets disrupted because there's not enough power. It's like beep, 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 oh, beep. And then the system will adjust to the new changes in hash rate. So Dash, since day one, I mean, literally since like the first week of its existence or whatever. I wasn't there, so I don't know the exact day, but had something called Dark Gravity Wave, which adjusts the difficulty every single block. So the blocks are coming out every 2.5 minutes like that, and then you lose like half the miners in the world get shut down for whatever reason. It still goes out at that same rate. It just still moves smoothly. Now, of course, Bitcoin Cash was forked from Bitcoin, and neither of those, and Bitcoin SV neither, they don't have a thing that does that. The difficulty adjusts every, how many blocks is it, Pasta?
Well, they're real focused on the the narrative is the one true Bitcoin thing, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to not change anything whatsoever. And obviously I can't speak for Satoshi. I'm not Satoshi, but I have a feeling that if he were around right now, he would have changed it already.
Yeah, he'd probably improved it. So Pasta, how many blocks does it take for Bitcoin to adjust difficulty?
Isn't it like almost every 6 months or something near that? I really don't know the block count.
No, I thought
it was an extended period of time.
I thought it's like I don't know what I'm going to shut up because I don't know. I'd rather not spread misinformation out there. But basically, it takes.
I'm not sure on that one either.
It takes a while. So
it may be like a week or something.
So this goes back to the uniform user experience kind of thing we're talking about, where if you send a transaction, it might go through right away. If you need to wait for a confirmation, it might be 10 minutes. If the network is congested, it might be hours, if not days. And if there's a difficulty adjustment problem, then it could be even longer. You just do not know how long it's going to take, and then that's it's poison for businesses. For example, especially if you have a business that makes a profit on moving money fast, it's just like, or if you're able to pay an employee less money because they want to be able to have it at the end of every single day, just zap. Like as soon as you punch out, you get the money, you can run off and pay for your groceries. Some people will work for less per hour in order to have that benefit. And so say you're able to save on costs by using something like Dash, that just at the end of every day, you just zap, send everyone their money, pay them on the day. And you're able to have lower labor costs for that. If it's variable, you just can't do that at all. You have to be like, nope, you're on every 2 weeks. And if it doesn't get to you right away, sorry, it'll wait a day or two. And then
the difficulty adjusts every 2016 block.
Yes, I just got a message of that. Thanks, SQL.
Roughly 14 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but
that sounds right.
If there aren't enough miners for that difficulty, those 14 days could stretch out to 21, 28 days pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yep, and I think that's what he was getting at. So I knew that. I thought it was like a week, but that makes sense. Yeah, 14 days, about 2 weeks or so, give or take. But yeah, and I think that's what Joel's getting at, is that now in Dash with Dark Gravity Wave, it adjusts every block, so we don't have to worry about that. So our block time is 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
and I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, if someone knows better. I believe Digibyte is the same way. I heard someone mention that. I have not extensively looked into it, but this is not like an only Dash kind of a thing. There's quite a few.
No, not necessarily. I think you're just more lamenting on the fact that it hasn't been implemented in some. That's a pretty crazy thing.
Yeah, it's like, fix it. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Fix it. It's not like a criticism like, oh, your code shucks, man. It's just, this is a thing you should probably fix so it works. And I know Bitcoin Cash is looking at all kinds of different, say like Avalanche to cut down on time to be actually secure of a zero confirmation transaction. Basically like weird different ways of getting an InstantSend type effect without using InstantSend. I don't care if they I don't care how people reach their technical conclusions. Does it work? That's the only thing the real world cares about. And the real world needs to use this or it's never going to retain value. So that's my little rant there. So, all right. So I have not gotten any last questions for Pasta. So I guess he did a very thorough job of educating everyone.
I think so.
Where I would say, like, where can everyone find you? And the big answer is GitHub or or in a Dash Core client near you. But is there anywhere else you tweet or you put out content or you do stuff like that you want people to follow?
So obviously all of my code and everything is on GitHub. My name there is Pasta because the alternatives were taken. On Discord, obviously the Dash Talk Discord, I'm a moderator, so you can find me on there if you'd like. I'm on keybase.io/pasta if you'd like a very secure messaging platform to connect me at. If you find any vulnerabilities, anything like that you feel or you just value your privacy like we do, then feel free to reach out at Keybase. But I don't really post on Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for having us have you on. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. I will make sure they're a little smoother every single time. Something new, something smoother. And for example, as I'm sure you see right here, I added the subscribe and donate buttons. So if you like this at all and you think it's worth doing, go over to Cointree or cointr.ee/thedesertlinks, which is mine. Has all my donation addresses. The Dash one is the only one that gets a lot of traction. I did get a little for a couple of others, but mostly it's all Dash. And that also has all the links for where this is going to be. And make sure to subscribe. I'm assuming you're watching if you're watching this, if you're watching on Twitter, follow me. If you're watching on Facebook, you're probably already my friend, whatever. But if you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed for some reason, please do that and subscribe, because in 2 weeks, this is coming back. So make sure to subscribe and donate. And this is going to be put up on LBRY, LBRY, the decentralized content platform, probably Sunday. And that's where I like to put it because it can't be taken down. It can't be censored like YouTube. And when people give likes, you can actually give little tips and stuff. So I'm a big fan of LBRY. That's where I have that. Now, guess what time it is? Do you know what time it is, Spencer?
Time for me to go eat some pasta that I've been staring at this entire time.
Oh, sounds good. Marinara?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Spaghettios. I would have loved. I should have put Pasta's image as a big can of Spaghettios instead.
I would have left.
It would have been pasta.
Yeah, that would have been quite the insult. It's like the people of Walmart of pastas. Yeah. So now it's time for the after party, which is like this, except it's not live on air. So don't worry, you can swear and drink and things like that. And it's not. Yeah, there you can. So it's not just the three of us. It's whoever happens to be in there. It's a nice social get-together, which, by the way, is very popular in these sort of post-pandemic times. Everyone's doing these Zoom happy hours and stuff. Oh, yeah. We were doing the after party before it was cool because of global disaster. So the way you get in there, first you got to go to the place that Pasta was talking about, the Dash Talk Discord. You go to staydashy.com. And I put that in the live chat. Let me put it on the
YouTube chat?
The Facebook live chat. Put that in the YouTube live chat. You go to staydashy.com, and that gets you into the Dash Talk Discord. And then you just start asking around, say, in the general chat. You can tag me at the Desert Links. You can tag Spencer at Codex with a K, Codex with a double X, and just say, hey, where's the after party? Where's the after party? And we'll let you in, and we'll just carry on until whenever. There's a bunch of people that show up there. Let me just put in staydashy.com in my Facebook thingy.
I'm typing all this stuff in YouTube chat.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So thanks again for watching. It's the time to put these things on because I know some people really love it and will make sincere financial decisions based on these little plastic things. So they have to be in the podcast for that reason. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and having a good time. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the meantime. Make some comments if you liked stuff, if you didn't like it, all that stuff. We're going to be around in 2 weeks again. In the meantime, it's time for the after party. Bye, everyone.
Bye.